Welcome to the Watchman Weekly End Time Expose on Bible Prophecy. Get ready for teachings that will empower you for dominion as an end time believer and equip you for the times and seasons in which we live. You are now listening to the Watchman Joseph Kabuleta.
These are the days of Elijah, declaring the word.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever time you're listening to this. Welcome to the Watchman broadcast today as we look at important events that are happening in the world today. And I am Evangelist John Pokina. And today we have woken up with the good news coming from the US, of course, the US election. And Trump has emerged victorious from the election counts, which is from Fox News and even CNN and some of the mainstream media, even the Reuters. They also declared Trump as the 47th president of the United States. So this is a very good news to the world, because now that Trump is elected back, and of course even he himself, he came out and gave a speech, and he spoke about how he said that this was the greatest political movement of all time, and there has not been anything like that. Most people have been calling it the greatest comeback in history, and of course he has been like, he lost the other time. Now this time he's coming back strong. Now we are going to now see, because as we look at all this from the perspective of Bible prophecy, we are going to look at how there's going to be a global shift in the entire world. First of all, even in America, because all the demonic plans which were being projected and spread abroad by the Democrats, all of them will be torn down. And actually, we are going to now see the greatest changes in America. For example, you know that the abortion, which Trump has even been in his campaign talking about against it, he says that we are going to see now that all those abortion plans, all of them will be erased. And it's actually, when you look at this year's abortion statistics, it is the record highest in millions of about 1,300 babies that has been aborted, which of course that is child sacrifice in the US. But now all that will be torn down, and even Trump spoke about it and said that they are going to save their country. They are going to heal their country too, because America has been sick. But now America is going to he spoke about how now America is going to come back healthy, and it's going to come back great again. Of course, his trumpet, which is make America great again. Then he spoke about the safe borders, that now they are going to correct all the border problems and which they have been facing. And then also, I know very well that all these illegal immigrants, I remember last week in New York, when Trump was there, they went to do their campaign in New York, and the speaker, I'm forgetting his name, it's a little bit complicated for me to pronounce here, but the speaker said that all these illegal immigrants, what they are going to do to them is to take them back. The legal immigrants, of course, they will stay. So there is going to be a greatest deportation, which we are going to see coming when Trump, of course, now is sworn in office, which is I believe it's in January, maybe January 20th. Even the one of 2016 was January 20th. I don't know this time, but it's going to be in January. And then also we are going to see a lot of family values, because one of the things which has been like torn down is actually family values in America. But what we are going to see is now there is going to be a restoration of all these family values in America. And then, of course, I know very well Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, congratulated Trump for his victory. And of course, they look towards for cooperation. And then I know very well there is going to be a lot of cooperation between America and Israel. But now that is for America. That there is going to be a lot of building up what has been spoiled by the Biden administration. I know very well the economy is going to boom very well, because even now after the win, when of course these results, when they were coming out, and of course Trump was leading, he kept on leading from the start. Now the financial markets started shaking, and that's because, of course, Trump is a businessman, and because him being a businessman, he will of course make sure that the economy of America is strong again, not the way it has been. They were speaking about recession. Now all that is going to be taken away. They were speaking about inflation and all. Trump is going to, in his speech, he says that we are going to do this. We know it's not a simple work, but we are going to do this. In his victory speech, he made a victory speech. So now, in America, we are going to see now America developing again, and we are going to see all that, a kind of restoration of all these things. For the Church of America also, there's going to be now that prosperity of the gospel. And then but for me, what I look so much that's going to happen very well in America is the economy. The economy will come back stronger and very strong. Just by the election results, the financial markets were shaking, and things were shaking. But now, when he comes into office, of course, let's talk about NATO, because NATO, what Trump is going to do is, like the way he did last time, he's going to withdraw most of the fundings of NATO. And because for him, in his mind, he has the policy of a nationalistic policy, which is one of the things the globalists does not want. Because the globalists, what they want is, they want a globalization. But Trump wants, his policy is nationalization. And that's why nationalization he speaks about things like making America first before any other thing outside. Making America first, thinking of people of America. And that's why he's going to look at the borders. He's going to look at all these economy. He's going to look at the people of America, how to, even in his victory speech, he spoke about how we are going to make sure we look after your dreams. So the American dream is going to come back again, which most people were not really thinking of it because they were being suppressed by the economy. They were being suppressed by those things. But now what is going to happen is America is going to focus on America, and NATO, as like I've spoken about it, NATO is just going to not be strong the way it has been. And when we speak about NATO and what they have been doing and what they have been engaged in, which is the Ukrainian war. So I know very well that Trump is going to make sure, even in that victory short speech, it was 10 minutes, he said that we are going to make sure we don't start wars but stop wars. So Trump's message to wars which are going on right now is that there is going to be the end of all those wars in his term, which of course let's start from the one we know about, the one I've just spoken about, the Russia and Ukraine war. The Russia-Ukraine war is going to withdraw a lot of funding because they have been feeding on the strength of America. That war has continued and continued because of the strength of America, but mostly the strength of NATO nations. And then that means Trump will weaken the NATO. And after weakening NATO, then what he's going to do is going to make sure that this Ukraine war also is weakened, so that by him cutting off all the fundings which has been going in that direction to fund and Ukraine. So that means Ukraine will not have funding, and like we've spoken about it here so many times, that wars are financial. Wars benefits on the funder. Wars survive on the funder. So what he's going to do is to cut off all this. But the good thing in America, like, there's something I believe I've not spoken about. The win is not only the presidential win. The win touches the area of the Senate, which also the Republican Party has won much more of the seats there. They won 51 to 42. 51 for Republican and 42 for Democrats. For Democrats. So now that means that the Senate, that's where policies are created, are made. So now you know very well that Trump is that the Democrats are fewer, but the Republican Party, there are many. So it means that the Republican Party, they will look at the policies, at supporting and agreeing to the policies which Trump will bring out. But also, when you look at this great political movement which Trump has been talking about, it's not only in the presidential level, but it, like I've told you, it's on the Senate level, but also in the US House level. So in the House, the Republican Party has won 197 seats. The Democrats have, but of course the counting and the counting is still going on. But of course, the majority is still the Republican Party, and the Republican Party in the House, they have gotten, so far, like right now as I'm talking, they have gotten 197, which of course the voting is still counting. And also the Democrats, they have gotten 179. Of course, it's a very small difference, but they are still the majority. Now, what does this mean? It means that policies which are going to pass out from, of course, the House and even the Senate is going to be lenient towards what the Republican Party wants and what, like, Trump is pushing for. So this is what now we are witnessing, that there's going to be a thorough shift in America. Trump, when you look at his policies, what he called foreign policies, like looking towards the things which happen outside of America, which, like I've said, the first one is NATO, is going to very much weaken NATO by withdrawing some of the funding, but also the Ukraine war, like I've said, that it's just going to be to the end of the war in Ukraine. Immediately after, the tremors have started, the shift has started right now. The shift in the whole entire Ukraine thing has started, because immediately after the victory trumpet of Trump was being spread around on the mainstream media, Ukraine started to prepare to withdraw their troops from a certain region called the Kursk region. Now the tremors in the Ukraine war are started. now you just know that something is brewing. They know very well that this is the end. Now Biden has, of course, 2.5 months to clean up his mess, or to clean up his table. Not really, I don't know whether he's not cleaning really, but to just take his time and finish these 2.5 months. Then now Trump will come in. So, but there's something, the relation between Russia and America. Previously, even when Trump was leaving office, because there was a lot of sanctions also which Trump had put in place in that time, when Trump was leaving office, the relationship between Trump and Russia wasn't good. Between America and Russia wasn't good. And of course, you know very well that when the Democratic Party came in, Biden just worsened the whole thing. And recently, I had Putin when he was talking about it was actually during the BRICS meeting, which happens about 2 weeks ago, when he was talking about his relationship with Trump. He said that I don't really have so much. What he was trying to say, to mean, is that with Trump, they don't have that close connection. They don't have, their connection is not bad, their connection is not good. That's what he was trying to say. And of course, you know how Putin is very political in his speech when he's making them. Between Russia and America, it may not really still be the best. That's what I know. But because I know very well the reason why it may not be the best, Trump, he has the policy of putting Americans as his first priority, like what I've told you, like the nationalistic move. And what he's going to be focused on is the domestic problems, which is in America. And actually, for him, he wants to improve the living conditions and not the wars. So what he's going to do is maybe between America and Russia is they'll go towards the ceasefire, which is, of course, the ceasefire of the Russia-Ukraine war. So that might be their relationship. But I don't think there will be so much better relationship than before. Because even previously, when he was leaving office, the relationship between Russia and America wasn't that very good. Wasn't that good. But now, let's talk about the relationship between this all Trump thing and the Middle East, which is of course Israel. And that is one of the things which we have been waiting for, because all these the Democrats, the Biden administration, they had been so much like tying the hands of Israel and not making Israel actually maximize their potential of what they want, which of course in the wars which have been happening, the war in Gaza, the war in Lebanon, and then the war in Yemen with the Houthi rebels, then also the war with Iraq, and then there are also some of the Syrian, some skirmishes which is happening in Syria, actually between Syria and Israel, because now Syria has been made by Iran to become the landing, the place where they land in their Iranian weapons to be supplied to either the terrorists which are around the Middle East, which are around Israel. So that's why Israel has been bombing a lot of so many airports. The Aleppo airports, then the Syrian International Airport, also there is the Damascus airport. Israel has been bombing them so much because when they bomb them, that means they cannot be in use and planes cannot land. So there's been a lot for not only just in these current times, but also in the previous years, Israel has been doing that a lot in mostly Aleppo airport in Damascus. But now, what is the relationship between now this American victory, Trump victory, with the wars which is happening in the Middle East, the conflicts which is happening in the Middle East? still, Trump said that we have not come to start wars, but we have come to end wars. So, what we know very well is that there's going to be the end of towards that war. But how will it come? Of course, Trump. There is the factor of Israel, but then there is the factor of Iran. In 2015, Trump signed in. He signed in what was known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which was something to. He signed it with Iran, and that was to cripple the Iranian advancement towards nuclear weapons. Now, when, of course, this guy came in, Biden came in, he just opened it up, and we kind of withdrew from it. And that made Iran to actually embolden themselves to continue enriching their uranium and their nuclear weapons. But now what I know very well is Trump will go back to this same thing, because it's what he wants. There is a way Trump works. And for him, he works by sanctions, by crippling people financially. Because by the time he left office, Iran had already been indebted. Okay, not Iran had been crippled financially, and they could not fund their activities in the Middle East. Then, of course, when Biden came in, Biden even, of course, the $6 billion he gave to, almost in total about $10 billion, which he gave to Iran, of course, in exchange of the U.S. Captive, who were there in Iran. He gave them like $6 billion. Then there was, and then also withdrawing from this pact. So, but now what Trump will do is to do the same, and even maybe much more, to make sure that they cripple Iran and make sure that Iran does not get the economy, and the economy of Iran does not bloom, but also just keep on shrinking, so that they don't have funding for, of course, the funding to fund their terrorists who are the proxy terrorists in around the Middle East. So that will silence the head, which is the head of the octopus. Benjamin Netanyahu calls Iran the head of the octopus. So that will silence Iran and make sure that Iran will have no more strength, financial might. But also, there is a way which I believe Trump will touch, and that is the sale, because one of the things which Iran survives on, the economy of Iran survives on, is their oil. So Trump will do something towards them not having much more profits in their oil. It will just happen. And then, when that one is done, the Houthis, who are, of course, in Yemen, they will have no funding. The Hamas, which is in Gaza and also Lebanon, they will have no funding, and some of them in Syria. The Hezbollah, who are in Lebanon, in Syria, they will have no funding. Then also the militias who are in Syria, in Iraq, they will have no funding. And then also Iran will not have, will fear for their advancement, and they will kind of, I believe this pact will be revived again. So that means Iran will not continue enriching their uranium. So that means their nuclear advancement will be put on hold. And then, of course, the real trouble causer in the Middle East is Iran, because of their terrorists, proxy terrorists and militias around the Middle East. So that means when Iran, the trouble causer, is weak, the whole Middle East will be at peace. But talking at Israel and even the ongoing wars, what will happen is there is going to be a lot towards now negotiation for peace. Because all the previous, there's been a lot of negotiation, and which of course by the Biden administration. And those negotiations were not coming. Benjamin Netanyahu wasn't actually allowing it, wasn't approving towards it, because they were not focused on making sure that it's a ceasefire. They were just making it to the outcome of it to look like Israel is kind of defeated, or is kind of looking for a refuge, which Benjamin Netanyahu will not allow. So this is the thing which is going to now happen, that there's going to be a revival of the ceasefire, and actually it can happen in weeks. I know that for sure, because previously we know that Trump had brought in what was called the Abraham Accord, which was a bilateral agreement between almost not all of the nations, but some of the nations. Like, of course, Israel. They signed with Israel, United Arab Emirates. There was also Bahrain. Then there was Morocco and Sudan. But they were now going to look towards, because now that bilateral agreement between the nations, they were now looking at strengthening peace, and also focusing on now developing like financial and the economy of that place, and how they can do them between them. But also they were looking at Saudi Arabia. Now, there was one of the reasons why the war in the Hamas people kind of claimed it, that one of the reasons why they came to fight Israel, on October 7th, it was because Saudi Arabia wanted to normalize ties with Israel, and kind of even join what Abraham Accords is. Now, what we are likely going to see is the normalization of ties between Saudi Arabia, Israel, of course, Trump being at the background of it. So this is what we will see, that the Abraham Accords is going to kind of revive it, and maybe even add some other nations, which can be even, of course, Jordan. Jordan is they are already at peace with Israel. Jordan, there is Egypt. Yes, Egypt much earlier, much more earlier years. And then, of course, Bahrain. There is also now the subject of Saudi Arabia. So they will come in to Trump will actually make sure that the relationship and ties between these countries come back, and they don't focus on wars, but they focus on bilateral relations. So that's what what will happen towards the Middle East. There's going to be actually a switching off of all these wars, all these conflicts, and the Middle East again will actually be calm. And that is how I see this Trump victory contributing towards what is happening in the Middle East. Of course, Israel will be safe again, and because now all the wars will end, and there will not be so much of the way Israel right now is, because right now they are on tension every time, but now Israel will be back. There will be that peace, because all these other terrorists are weakened, and even what Israel has done to Hamas, Gaza is going to be Gaza is that demolished right now, and Gaza and Hamas, they are demolished very well. So there will not be I know very well now there is going to be the plan towards in the peace agreement between Israel and Hamas and the ceasefire deal. They will look at subject of resettling Gaza and rebuilding Gaza, which will happen. That one I know it will happen, because it will be part of the ceasefire. Then also there is going to be this ceasefire from Hezbollah, which I know very well it is going to happen, because even the current leader, you remember how Israel was eliminating everyone was coming. Today actually marks 40 days after when Hassan Nasrallah was eliminated. Now, that was the leader of Hamas, of Hezbollah. The minute he was eliminated, all the leaders they were suggesting, Israel kept on eliminating to the fourth. But now, of course, right now they have currently elected someone, appointed someone to be the leader, and this person was talking about a ceasefire deal, something between Israel and Hezbollah. So that's one thing which we'll also look at, because there's going to be peace. What you should know, there's going to be peace, very well. Peace in the Middle East, peace in the Russian-Ukraine. But let's talk about the European Union, because the EU, the European Commission chief, whom she's called von der Leyen. She is a person whom she has not been relating with Trump in very well, because there was a time, sometime back, she accused Trump of damaging democracy for 4 years. But right now, I saw that she actually went in and tried to congratulate Trump for the victory, and also there was a certain the tremors in there's going to be a lot of in Europe. What I see that Trump's victory is going to create is that, because France, there was after the victory announcement of Trump's victory, France, there was a post which came out from France which says, France says Europe must take charge of their own destiny as Trump leads US vote. So why is this very important? Of course, like what we have spoken earlier on about NATO, that there is going to be a cutting off of that ties between the Europe and America. They have been having that tie, that ties together, which is through NATO. But according to this post, it says that France says Europe must take charge of its own destiny as Trump leads US vote. So the tremors have started. And this lady von der Leyen, the EU commission chief, also, I know she's not that connected to Trump. She doesn't relate with Trump very well, because like obviously what she has spoken about. So now EU will now stand alone. So that means there is going to be also the polarization of Europe and the breaking away of Europe, because you remember previously, I think some months back, when there was the EU election, parliamentary election, and members of the parliamentary members of the EU were being elected, and how the right wingers took a lot of the majority, and even so, the demonic plan in Europe is actually being restrained by the right wingers, because the right wingers, for them, they look at conserving the mostly, let me just say, it's more or less connected to what Trump thinks about America, which is to America first, the nation first, and not allowing demonic policies like abortion, like the LGBTQ and all those progressive thinking, demonic progressive thinking, to come and take charge in America. Now that's the same thing which the right wingers will also make it in Europe. But now with this Trump victory, what will happen is it will increase that to the point that there's going to be what I can call it polarization. And this is like EU will begin breaking away from the globalistic move and this globalization move. The globalization is that demonic agenda of the new world order people, of the demonic people, to lead the world into what is the Bible calls the one world government. and the one world economic system. The victory of Trump is that the EU, it will now, because of course it has now the background of the right wingers, that they are the majority in the EU Parliament. And now even you look at this post, it says that France says Europe must take charge of its own destiny, as Trump leads US vote. So Europe will now focus on Europe. That, like, what I can call it is, there's going to be more of the nationalistic movement, because even the right wingers, all of them, they are looking at the right wingers in France, in of course in different parts of Europe, who are now the majority in the EU Parliament. All of them, they are thinking of rebuilding their country, because they have realized that their country has been infested by progressive thinkers, which I can call it the leftist or demonic people or the globalists. And they were actually looking at how their nations were falling away and leading towards darkness. But what they are now trying to bring out, even in their campaigns months back, when even this thing wasn't yet, in months back, they were looking at making sure that they rebuild back their country. They focus on their country. They focus on this and that. So this will lead into so much of the conservatives, like what I say, like you see now family values coming back. It will start in America, yes, but also in the UK. There will also be that that spread of LGBTQ movement. It will also be cut off. There's something I forgot talking about that move in America. Let me just touch on it and come back to the Europe. In America, what Trump will do is to cut off funding for the LGBTQ movement. And that, of course, like the way he did previously, he will do it again this time. And why is he going to be cutting the funding? To focus on the economy, to focus on making America better, greater again, the way he sounds his on trumpet. So even in Europe, that movement will diminish. And then again, we'll see a lot of nationalistic movement happening in Europe, that now France will be thinking of France, and this other nation, Hungary, they will be thinking of themselves and of be focusing on themselves. And then the thing which had started happening in Europe, which was about farms and farmers and all those control, it will be taken down. It will be taken down, because now people, they will be focusing on themselves the same way Trump will be again focusing on themselves. And at some point, they will be thinking about actually withdrawing fundings from Ukraine. Most of those nations, so like even France and Germany, they will be thinking of actually withdrawing funding Ukraine, because they were actually the ones who were also funding Ukraine, some of those nations there. So what they will think about is actually now withdrawing funding from Ukraine. Like I told you, Ukraine, Zelensky should just prepare for peace and prepare for election, because they don't want to go for election, but he should now prepare to go back, and of course maybe even in election he loses, and a more proper leader who thinks for Ukrainians comes up. So that is how all this is shaping up in Europe. That is what the future of Europe right now, according to Trump's victory. We know that the Bible prophesies that in the end time there will be a one world government. So, because of that, the globalists had been in the background, and maybe we'll speak about this next time, how the globalists had actually fostered in and wanted to bring out the one world government. But they had wanted to actually, they have been in so much preparation, and they had wanted to take over America. Because, like I've told you, there is what is happening right now. God is trying to restrain every evil move, every evil darkness right now, because it's not yet the time. The time right now is for the church, and the time right now is for the dominion of the church. So God is putting in place everything that the church needs for dominion. But before I go into the church section, is that the world governments were heading towards a one world government, a one world economic system, a one world religion. That is what they had wanted to actually put in place. And the bricks were already being laid for them, and they were actually putting them up. But the good thing is, now with this Trump victory, we are going to see a breakaway from all that and a pause of the development of the one world government and the one world community. And that's the reason why now Europe will be thinking of Europe, America will be thinking of America. And of course, that globalistic movement were not yet coming here in Africa so much, but they were coming, yes, for sure. So there will be now focus. The entire globe will be focused on nationalistic movements and creation of stronger economies all over the world. You'll see that the people will be, the governments of the world will be looking at economies, how they can strengthen their economies. And there's going to be economic rise, prosperity, like what we have talked about, like the prosperity. There's going to be a lot of prosperity around in this time. So much prosperity. And you, as a believer, you know very well the Bible speaks about wealth transfer, that there's going to be wealth transfer in the end time. And you need to prepare yourself for wealth transfer this time. You are going to be wealthy because this is the time for wealth transfer. So you should just be ready to take over, to be wealthy. Now, to the church, this Trump victory speaks about the prosperity of the gospel in America, yes, also in the world. That we have now enough atmosphere to operate and spread the gospel, spread the good news all over the world. And the scripture speaks about that in the end time, the gospel of the kingdom shall be preached, and then the end shall come. Now, this is the time. This is the time for the gospel of the kingdom to be spread. It says it will be spread to all nations as a witness. So this is the time. There's going to be prosperity, great prosperity all over the world. Then there's going to be now these demolishing of all these wicked agenda of one world government, one world currency, like what they had been thinking about, the CBDC, all those, it will be crippled. All those will be crippled right now. Of course, they'll try to keep on moving with it, but it will not prosper because there is now a setback of a rolling back of all those policies, all those things which the enemy had wanted to bring and bring them right now. But now it's not going to happen because, like we've spoken about it here, that the globalists wanted to take over the seat of America so that now they have ample space, because like we've said here, America is still America. Once it sneezes, the whole world catches a cold. So now what is going to happen is, what they'd wanted to happen was to take over America and then now spread their LGBTQ movement, spread their one world currency, which of course, like we said, they wanted to come through the CBDC, the central bank digital currency. They wanted to control the economies of the world, to now make sure people are in panic, and then they bring out this CBDC. Then they wanted to increase on on these controls which can happen. And I'm telling you the truth, that lady was going to allow abortion to increase, was going to bring in so many illegal immigrants, allow them to come into America. Why is that important? It's, if you want to look how the significance of immigrants in US, just turn back to the UK or to the Europe. When you look at Europe right now, I saw a certain random photo which was taken in the center of UK, in the street, one way street in the UK, and if you see as if you are in a Muslim nation, because all these people putting on their hijabs and covering their thing with veils, all like there were so many Muslims. Why? Because Europe had been infested with this problem of illegal immigrants. Okay, some of them, but immigrants. So that brought in them there to the point, not even just in, I think even like 2 or 3 decades ago. That's how they started coming in and allowing them, to the point that now, I've told you, that the right wingers, when they took over power, most of them becoming the majority in Europe, they realized that this is one of the problems they have and they have to solve it. So, but generation after generation, like I think even, okay, not really generation, but decades after decades, there were so many of these immigrants. And in UK, most of their like major mayors in those cities are actually Muslims, and not the indigenous people, which is the British. And that's what they want to take over, so that now the globalist agenda, will touch on it maybe one time here properly, when we talk only about the globalist agenda and how they want it to actually, how they wanted to lay down all these globalist agenda, because to create a one world government, you have to make sure you disrupt the current governments. That's what they've been wanting, and one of the ways they want to they've been using to disrupt is bring in illegal immigrants. And now this immigrant comes in, they stay, they of course become citizens, they give birth, and after a period of time, they are more than you. Of course, like the Muslims, they tell them that you know how they multiply. Then the other ones, they tell them that you are bought, like the way they're doing in US. They are aborting millions of babies. Then now, what happened is, afterwards, you are again but these other ones, they are continuing to multiply. Before you know it, you are the minority in your country. So that's what they want. The other ones become majority, so that when they tell them to do anything, they will just do anything, because they are just living in your country. That's what they wanted to do. So one of the things which will happen also is tearing down of all these immigration things, in not only in America but also in the Europe, like the way also it has started. So, but to the church, there's going to be prosperity. There's going to be prosperity of wealth. There's going to be also the time of the gospel, spreading the gospel. But also, it's also going to be time for the church to take dominion. And this is one of the message which we have labored to make you understand here, that you are called to dominion. And we are going to, and when we are saying dominion, not only just everywhere, there's going to be the children of God now has time to, as an atmosphere, not time. We now have an atmosphere to dominate, because the atmosphere is a very conducive atmosphere to dominate. And this darkness that we are coming is rolled back away. And now we have all the time to take this. We have to take this opportunity. You as the church, a child of God, you have to take this time as your time and take possession of this time for the benefit of the dominion of the church. You remember the scripture says that there was in the days of Joseph 7 years of plenty and 7 years of scarcity. I believe this is the time of the 7 years of plenty and abundance. Now, what you do with these 7 years of plenty determines your life and your outcome in the 7 years of scarcity. So as the child of God, you need, if you dominate right now with the prosperity which is happening right now, in the other time of scarcity, you'll have no lack. You'll like Joseph. You'll be like Joseph. You'll be like the children of Israel who were at Goshen. And then it will lead to, at the end of it all, it will lead to the same way the children of Israel, they emerged on top. Is the same way the church will emerge on top and have dominion. If we maximize this time very well, and this is the thing, we need to maximize this time as children of God. This is our moment. And that's why almost every child of God is excited that Trump is, everyone is happy. I've been talking to so many people, and they're very happy that Trump has been elected, that Trump has won, and they're very happy. Yes, because in us, there is the witness of good news. We expect now that now it's our time. Now it's the time of the kingdom. Now it's the time of the gospel. We are supposed to spread. We are supposed to make sure we dominate. So you as a believer, this is your time. This is your time. This is your time. I want to read one scripture which I love very much in Daniel, and we have read it so many times here. Daniel chapter 2 verse 44. It says, "And in the days of these kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to the other people." Now, this is the time we have. This is the days where this scripture is coming to pass, is being fulfilled. It says, "And in these days, the days of these kings," the scripture says that there will be some kings. Now we can talk about kings in the European Union, kings in the US, kings in the. When you see the BRICS coming up, when you see Trump coming up, when you see the European Union, and you see, it says in the days of these kings, it says the God of heaven will set up a kingdom. So I read it in our time, in our current language. It says the God of heaven is setting up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed. So God is setting up his kingdom. And how does he set it up? Through us as the church, so that we take over every sphere of life, every place of life. And it says, "And the kingdom shall not be left to the other people." Now, if you do not take over, what will happen is that this scripture will not come to pass the way it's supposed to come. Of course, it will come to pass, but I'm just trying to emphasize to you that if you do not get set up, because allow God to set you up, and that is what God is doing, is setting you up to take over the kingdoms. It says, if you do not set up, the next part of this verse says, "which shall never be destroyed," the kingdom which shall never be destroyed, "and the kingdom shall not be left to the other people." So what the will of God is that the kingdom, the dominion, and principalities and areas of influences, political, entertainment, media, arts, family, farming, agriculture, every sphere of life. What I'm talking about is every sphere of life. It says, "It shall not be left to the other people, to the wicked people." If you leave it, the Bill Gates will take over the farms. They will. If you leave the health sector, the Bill Gates will take over. Now it's now our time. The church, we as the children of God should go in those areas and take over World Health Organization, or even establish something much better. Take over everything that is to be taken, every space. Do not leave any space for the devil. Take over these spaces and carry them on for the kingdom of God, for the agenda of Christ. And this is what we have as the children of God. Take over. Take over. It's our time. It's our time to shine. Let the movie start. Thank you so much for listening. Have yourselves a lovely evening, morning, whatever time you're listening in. But don't forget to join us for Friday Fellowship this Friday. We have the Watchman Fellowship every Friday, starting at 6 p.m. at the Watchman grounds, which is opposite Mukwaya General Hospital along Gaba Road near American Embassy. Find your way there every Friday, and this Friday the Watchman will be there to equip you as an end-time believer. Have yourselves a lovely evening, morning, afternoon, whatever time you're listening. God bless you.
That was the Watchman Joseph Kabuleta. Join us for our Friday fellowship starting at 6 p.m. at the Watchman grounds opposite Mukwaya Hospital near the American Embassy along the main Gaba Road. To connect to the anointing upon the Watchman, you can give through the ministry mobile money lines +256 780 292 555 or +256 755 292 555. Follow us on Facebook, The Watchman, TikTok, The Watchman Ministries, YouTube, Ugandan Watchman, X at UG Watchman, Instagram at @the_UG Watchman, or email at ugwatchman.com. For more information on how to give resources and more, visit our website at ugwatchman.com. The Watchman, the King is coming.